Okay, so sacral region. So sacral region is a triangular shaped bone. Yeah, so it is a triangular shaped bone. It is very much thick and wide across. Then superiorly it will be locating like a triangular in shape. So the base will be at the top and apex will be at the bottom. Then when a baby is born, we all will tell, no, all the sacral segments, 5 segments, they are fused to form a single segment. So until the age of 20, it is formed by the fusion of 5 sacral segments, we tell, no. So it does not begin until after the age of 20. That means what? Until 20 the fusion is going on. Hmm? Okay, after that, after the age of 20, the sacrum is fusing. It gets fused correctly. So before that, until 20, we must be careful that the sacrum is not getting injured by the students or by the um, humans or adults, because there will be a problem in your sacroiliac joint. So care should be taken that until the age of 20 there is not much load, or you are not injuring that sacrum. Okay, after the age of 20 it goes for complete fusion. Then anteriorly the sacrum will be little bit softer, but posteriorly there will be ridges like spines and all will be modified, and it will be appearing as a median sacral crest. All the spines of the sacrum, it gets modified and it comes to the center in the posterior surface. Then it is also having the lateral sacral crest also. So the transverse process, all the transverse process will get fused as the lateral crest. Then what is sacral promontory is the topmost region of the sacrum. The topmost region of the sacrum, it is having the anterior lip, that is lateral side. It is giving connection with the sacrum is getting connected with the iliac bone. So the sacral promontory, it is having 3 types of connections. One is with the L5 vertebrae and another two with the 2 hip bones, iliac bones. Okay, so they form the immobile sacroiliac joints of the pelvis. See, there is always a confusion whether the sacroiliac joint is a movable joint or a immovable joint. Actually, until the age of 20 it is a little bit of movable only, because the sacrum itself is getting fused only at the age of 20. So after 20 it becomes an immobile sacroiliac joint. But the some researchers have undergone, now what they are telling is there might be a very little movement, very little movement in case of some sort of movements. Okay, but theoretically we tell it is only immovable joint. So if there is a distraction, in case of during pregnancy, the ligaments present in the sacroiliac joints and the ligaments of the symphysis pubis, they become soft and they give little bit of separation. So you can see the pregnant ladies after the delivery, there is a little bit of gap is formed, or a little bit of expansion is formed in the sacroiliac joint also. So the researchers are going whether it is completely mobile or a mobile, little bit, very little movement is present or not. Then inferiorly if we go, the topmost is the sacral promontory. Then down, if you go down, it becomes from the top there is a hole present in the sacrum. So that hole we call it as sacral canal. Then at the side there will be a little bit of some openings, this side 4 openings and this side 4 openings, that we call it as sacral hiatus. That opening will be getting connected with the sacral canal. Once I asked you before the same question, whether there is a connection between the sacral canal and the I think only one student told the answer for that. So sacral foramina is present. The sacral foramina is getting connected with the sacral canal. So the sacral canal consists of the the tail of the spinal cord. So that the from the tail of the spinal cord, the sacral nerves will emerge outside via the sacral foramina. Then if you see sacrum, the openings present, the openings present, we call those openings as the foramina. How many openings is the posterior dorsal? If you see the diagram, you will be able to see. So 1 2 3 4 5, how much? 1 2 3 4, left and right side you have 4 opening. Then see the superiorly you have a opening. So superiorly we call it as sacral canal, and these openings which are present on the side, we call that as a foramina. So they are also getting connected with that of the sacral canal. Okay, so each of these openings is called a posterior foramen or the anterior. So see, this is the which one we can call it as anterior surface, which one we call it as posterior surface. A is anterior and P is, and the diagram B is posterior. So anteriorly also there is the presence of openings, and posteriorly also there is a presence of opening. So we call them as dorsal and the anterior and posterior sacral foramina, we call it as. So they are allowing the sacral nerve roots. Then the superior articular process, it is getting articulating with the L5 vertebra. It's okay, that you all know. So this is a sacral side view. These things we have seen and already in anatomy. Then coming to coccyx, just explanation of coccyx. So it gets to see the bone which is present at lowermost part of a sacrum. So it articulates with the inferior tip of a sacrum. Usually in the standing position, the coccyx does not possess any weight. Only when we are sitting, the coccyx is getting the weight. Um, that too, for a long sitting only we perceive that weight is getting transmitted to the coccyx. Then articulating surfaces of sacrum, see it is getting articulated with the L5 vertebra, both the iliac bones. So there will be the, what are all the articulating surfaces? It articulates with 4 bones, that is L5 vertebra, then coccyx bone down, then the iliac bone on the both the sides. So there are 4 articulating surfaces for the sacrum. You can see the diagram how the sacral promoter is there and how the sacral canal is there, where the sacral foramina, and you can see the articulating surfaces. At the top L5 will come and sit, at the down coccyx bone, and at both the lateral side the hip bones. Then we have to see what are all the ligaments present here. Just instead of reading out, we can go to that diagram part of it, then we can explain it. See, first is anterior, the ligament which is present, see it, we are connecting sacrum and iliac bone. So there will be a anterior sacroiliac ligament, posterior sacroiliac ligament. Okay, then in between we call it as interosseous sacroiliac ligament. Then sacrotuberous means from the sacrum bone to the head of the humerus, that is greater tuberosity, lesser tuberosity, we tell, no. So the upper part of the femur, so the upper part of the femur. Then sacrospinous means where is the spine, ischial spine. We have to consider here the ischial spine of the hip bone. So the connection between these two, there is a ligament. See posterior sacroiliac ligament, where it will be located? It will be located behind the pelvis. So it connects sacrum with the ilium, which is the upper part of the pelvis. The ligament consists of connective tissue, and the upper part moves across. Okay, where it is located, just you think. So anterior sacroiliac ligament, it will be present anteriorly. Posterior sacroiliac ligament will be present posteriorly. See, in this diagram you will be able to visualize easily. See in this diagram the sacrum, here some extra ligaments is also there. See, the sacrum is getting connected with the ilium. So anteriorly it is getting connected with the anterior sacroiliac ligament. Posteriorly it is getting connected with the posterior sacroiliac ligament. See the sacrotuberous, from the sacrum the ligament is coming, it is getting attached with the tuberous means what? Which part? Tuberous. Which tuberous means? Ischial tuberosity. We can tell the ischial tuberosity. So the connection with the tuberous. Then where is the other ligament? Interosseous ligament. See the location of sacrospinous and interosseous ligament. Sacrospinous is from the sacrum, it is getting attached to the ischial spine. Okay, that is the sacrospinous ligament. Then the interosseous ligament, where is the location of interosseous ligament? Is present in between the anterior and the posterior sacroiliac ligament, that it is present in between them. Okay, So you can see. Then interspinous. What is meant by interspinous? In the sacrum bone, the center part, there is a modification of the spines. No, we call that as a medial crust. So the ligament which is present there, we call that as a interspinous ligament. You are able to follow until now ligaments. Next we can go to the remaining part. First two we saw, isn't it? Anterior and posterior we saw. So the dorsal interosseous is, we call it as dorsal interosseous ligament. They are very strong. What is the speciality of this interosseous ligament is, before iliac bone gets fractured, that is before the ligament gets tear, the bone will get fractured. So that much strong this dorsal or the lateral interosseous ligament is having. So this dorsal or lateral sacroiliac ligament, they include both the long and the short ligaments. They run vertically, that is oblique vertically, and they run perpendicular from just behind the articulating surface of sacrum to the ilium. See, there is a ligament present on the anterior side and there is a ligament present on the posterior side, that we call anterior and posterior sacroiliac ligament. This interosseous ligament is present vertically in between these two ligaments. So this ligament is very strong. So it keeps the sacroiliac joint from distraction or opening. Then coming to the extrinsic sacroiliac joint ligaments, that is the sacrotuberous and sacrospinous. Sacrotuberous. So tuberous means ischial tuberosity. So they are just connected with the ischial tuberosity of the ilium and the lateral sacrum and the coccyx. Sacrospinous means ischial spines. From the sacrum it is getting connected with the ischial spines. So both the ligaments, they limit the amount of sacrum flexus during flexion of the vertebra, that is lumbar pelvic rhythm we tell, no. So the tilting is mainly done by the sacrum. Okay, tilting is done by sacrum and the hip bones. So it will have a main role. The sacrum will have the main role in the tilting, anterior and posterior tilting. Then coming to pubic symphysis, it is just a cartilaginous joint. Then it is connecting the both the pubic bones. So it is located in front and above the urinary bladder. So first the symphysis pubis will be present, followed by urinary bladder. Behind the bladder there will be a presence of uterus in case of female, then presence of presence of rectum in case of male. So presence of bladder in case of first is symphysis pubis, then urinary bladder, then uterus in case of female, then in case of male symphysis pubis, urinary bladder and the rectum. Then the ligaments present in the pubic symphysis is, they are connected by fibrocartilage only during the pregnancy, that too only in women. It will be a little bit of, there will be a movement during the pregnancy because of the hormonal changes. Otherwise it is not going to open in case of male. So the fibrocartilaginous disc, it is having a series of ligaments. So they get attached with that of the this pubic symphysis bones. Then ligaments which are present in the pubic symphysis region, they are superior pubic ligament, they are very strong, inferior pubic ligament, then anterior pubic ligament and posterior pubic ligament. There are 4 types of ligaments present in the pubic symphysis. So superior, if we will see whether the diagram is there. See the diagram. So this area we call it as a pubic symphysis. So where is the superior is the one which is present above, inferior is the one which is present below, then anterior and posterior. Anterior is which is present in front and posterior which is present at the back. So the ligament which is present in the symphysis pubis. So first we will see superior ligament. This is being reinforced by the tendons of, that is, it is getting attached with the tendons of rectus abdominis muscle, abdominals like the external oblique, then gracilis, the muscles of the lower limb, and by the muscles of the hip. The superior pubic ligament connects together the 2 pubic bones superiorly. So that is enough for us. The inferior pubic ligament, what it is doing, it is also known as the arcuate pubic ligament or sub. Sub means down. Since it is present inferiorly, we call it as sub. So subpubic ligament, it is a thick triangular ligament. Then it is connecting the 2 pubic bones below and forming the upper boundary for the pubic arch. So it forms the upper boundary of the pubic arch. So the diagram I have shown you already. Then you can see the how the what is meant by this pelvic outlet, the round color thing. That is, see, you consider this is outlet means then there will be some sort of inlet. Okay, pelvic inlet and pelvic outlet. This is important in case of pregnancy because the uterus will grow in size. So the baby will be present inside the uterus, inside the pelvic in between the pelvic bones. Though after inside the pelvic inlet. So once the after the parturition occurs, it has to move from pelvic inlet to pelvic outlet for reaching the vagina to come out. Okay, so we will be studying in later stages about the pelvic inlet syndromes and pelvic outlet syndromes and all. We will be studying in the next coming years. Okay, so we have to have a clear note about the ligaments present in the sacrum, that is upper part, and ligaments present in the symphysis pubis. So next we will go to the movements present here. So kinematics is already I told it is the movement. So here we are going to see anterior. They can ask instead of asking anterior pelvic tilt, we know that is called the innominate bone, is otherwise called the hip bones. Okay, so anterior innominate tilt, this is nothing but the anterior pelvic tilt. Posterior innominate tilt means that is called posterior pelvic tilt. Yesterday I asked you questions, but none of you gave the answer for it, isn't it? I asked no I was asking you one question about the tilting, but you didn't answer. But today you will be getting the answer for that. That is, see, anterior pelvic tilt means the sacrum is where the left and right move as a unit symmetrically. We call it as agonist. That means what? In case if we want to, you just sit. You're sitting in a chair means just go for an anterior tilt. That means what? You're going to try to bend your upper back. So if you bend anteriorly, we call it as a anterior pelvic tilt. Posterior pelvic tilt is your both the hip bones are going to go for posteriorly. That is called posterior pelvic tilt or innominate tilt. Then sometimes the anterior pelvic tilt may be asymmetrical. That means what? You think that you are walking. In case of gait cycle, when you are walking, your right leg must, if your right leg is going front, your left leg will be at the back. So in this time, what it will be happening? Anterior tilt of one innominate bone, while the opposite innominate bone, it will tilt posteriorly on the sacrum. Are you able to follow this third point? Yesterday I was asking you whether it is running, it is going in the same direction or in the opposite direction. I was asking you, but you were not able to tell. So the answer for that is, if the pelvic tilt can occur with both the hip bones symmetrically, the pelvic tilt can occur with both the hip bones symmetrically anteriorly, symmetrically posteriorly, or sometimes during the gait cycle when we are walking, when you are keeping your right leg in front, so there will be anterior pelvic tilt of right hip bone alone. On that time there will be a posterior pelvic tilt of your left hip bone. So this is called asymmetrical. This occurs during the gait. This is called asymmetrical. Okay, this tilt is called asymmetrical. Then comes the nutation and counter nutation. This both very important for you. What is meant by nutation? Nutation means sacral flexion. If there is a flexion of sacrum, we call that as nutation. If the sacrum is extending, then that is called a counter nutation. So repeated questions they ask for this nutation and counter nutation. So sacral flexion, that is, if the motions of the sacrum occur simultaneously with the motion of the ilium. That means what? If there is anterior pelvic tilt of both the hip bone, clear? See, if there is an anterior pelvic tilt of both the hip bone, the sacrum also goes for a flexion. So that is called a nutation. Clear? If there is a posterior pelvic tilt of both the hip bones and the sacrum will go for extension, then that is called a counter nutation. Able to follow? Able to follow? Only if you are able to follow, I can go for the next part. because these five things are very important. Whether you are present inside.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the tilting can be, the anterior pelvic tilt can be symmetrical, and the same the posterior pelvic tilt can be symmetrical, but sometimes the pelvic tilt can be asymmetrical, that is only during the gait. Then when there is a forward flexion, that is when there is an anterior pelvic tilt, there will be a flexion of sacrum called nutation, and when there is a posterior pelvic tilt, there is an extension of the sacrum, then that is called a counter nutation. So these are all the motions of the sacroiliac joint, that is anterior innominate tilt or anterior pelvic tilt, posterior innominate or the posterior pelvic tilt. So pelvic tilt, what is meant by pelvic tilt? It is the orientation of pelvis. Just I told you, but now we are going to the theoretical part. Just it is a rotation of the pelvis, that is hip bone, with respect to the thigh bones. Thigh bones means what? Your femur bones. So the movement of the hip bones in respect with the femurs, thigh bones and the rest of the body. So this tilt is called a pelvic tilt. So the pelvic can tilt towards front and back or either side of the body. So this either side of the body is only asymmetrical. Okay, front is symmetrical, back movement is also symmetrical, on either side of the body is only asymmetrical. So what is meant by anterior pelvic tilt? So anterior pelvic tilt is when the front of the pelvis, it drops in relationship to the back of the pelvis. Okay, so for example, this happens when the hip flexors are shortening. When there is a movement of hip bones anteriorly, which muscles has to contract? The muscles which are present anteriorly. So the hip flexors are present anteriorly, so they go for shortening, and the hip extensors go for lengthening. So this will be vice versa in the posterior pelvic tilt. So during posterior pelvic tilt, the hip extensors will go for contraction and the hip flexors will go for relaxation. So that is being given here. It is opposite when the front of the pelvis rises and the back of the pelvis drops. For example, the hip flexors are lengthening and the hip extensors are shortening. Particularly the gluteus maximus, they are the primary hip extensors, so they go for shortening. Then what is lateral pelvic tilt? It describes the tilting towards either right or left and is associated with scoliosis or people who have legs of different length. It can also happen when one leg is bent. See, lateral pelvic tilt is not normal. Okay, only the anterior and posterior pelvic tilt are normal. And one more thing I told you, anterior pelvic tilt or posterior pelvic tilt, it can be asymmetrical. That is during gait, I told you. This lateral pelvic tilt, what it tells is, if there is a difference in the length of the leg, or if he is having a scoliosis, there is a curving lateral curvature of the spine, then a limb length, there is a different limb length. Then if one another things also you can add, after fracture complications, abductor weakness. So in these cases we can tell the pelvis is going for a lateral pelvic tilt. It can also happen when one leg is bent while the other remains straight. In that case, the bent side skip can follow the femur as knee lowers towards the ground. That is a indifferent tilt. We call it as a lateral pelvic tilt. Then left pelvic tilt and right pelvic tilt. See, left pelvic tilt is when the right side of the pelvis is elevated higher than the left side. That is we call hip hiking. You will be studying this in abductor weakness. In the gait cycle you will be studying what are the deformities of gait, you will be learning in that. No, so left pelvic tilt, right pelvic tilt, that means left side of the pelvis is elevated higher than the right side. That means what? Right abductors are getting weak. So left pelvic tilt is when the left abductors are very much weak, then that leads to this type of tilting. So hip hiking we tell. So that is the, so you can see, I told you, know, while sitting you can do, and you can see what see the hip flexors. First one is the anterior pelvic tilt. Okay, during anterior pelvic tilt, what is happening? Yesterday what we saw? Lumbar we saw, isn't it? What will happen to the lumbar lordosis? So now during anterior pelvic tilt, I told you, when there is an anterior pelvic tilt, there is a flexion of the sacrum, that is called nutation. I told you. Now what about the lumbar region? What will happen to the lumbar region? Tell me whether the lumbar lordosis is decreased or increased. Tell me whether the lumbar lordosis is increased or decreased during flexion. Yesterday you were inside the class. Now just tell me or just message me so that I can able to understand, you are able to follow. Now I am asking, during anterior pelvic tilt, the sacrum is going for bending. That is, sacrum is going for flexion. That we call it as nutation. What happens to lumbar region, I am asking. This is yesterday's class. What happens? Whether the lumbar lordosis is decreased or increased. I don't know what you are doing, whether you are inside or not, I don't know. Whether you are able to follow, because the lumbar vertebra is also being put down. I'm seeing that and I'm asking you that you are not at all seeing what is being down. See the diagram which is present down. What is happening to the lumbar lordosis? So Vidya has told lumbar lordosis is increased. How? Lumbar lordosis, how it will be increased? You are not able to follow what I am telling, I think.
Ma'am, lordosis means the curve should be inward. So,
Curve should be flattened, isn't it? The curve should be flattened.
flattened.
So the lordosis is increased or decreased? Lordosis will be decreased or increased? That is my question.
Decreased.
Okay, we will see the next one. Then you will be able to answer. See, this is good posture and this is your bad posture. So Prashant has told it is increased. So see, in the anterior pelvic tilt, what is going on? Your sacrum and your iliac bone is going in front, and see, this is your which is good posture and this is your bad posture. So what is the position of the lumbar region, you just see, then you answer me. This is anterior pelvic tilt and posterior pelvic tilt. So at least from this you can tell anterior pelvic tilt, what is happening, what happens to the lumbar region, what is happening. So what Vidya told, lumbar lordosis is increased, she told. So it depends upon the position. Okay, if you think you just go for a lumbar pelvic rhythm, you just stand and then you go for a flexion. So if you go for a flexion, what happens to your lumbar region or lumbar lordosis? What happens, whether it is increased or decreased? See, in this lying position we are able to see the lumbar lordosis is increased in the anterior pelvic tilt and decreased in the posterior pelvic tilt. You see, in the other position, what is happening? What is happening? Whether it is closed chain or open chain. In this diagram, from this diagram, what you are able to see? Lumbar extension is increased lordosis. What you are able to? Sacral nutation. That means what sacral nutation means? Sacral flexion, isn't it? So during sacral flexion, what is happening? What is happening to the lumbar region? So finally we have to come to a conclusion. What is happening? So anterior pelvic tilt, sacral nutation that will try to increase the lumbar lordosis. Okay, so that will try to increase the lumbar lordosis. So anterior pelvic tilt. See, from this you are able to see anterior pelvic tilt, and this is the posterior pelvic. This anterior pelvic tilt. What is happening to your lumbar lordosis? And from this, that is extension of trunk. That means what? Posterior pelvic tilt. What is happening to the? In these two things, what are you able to find? So today we have to come to a conclusion. What is happening in the anterior pelvic tilt? Isn't it? So tell me. See, this is posterior pelvic tilt. What is happening? So flexion of posterior pelvic tilt. So flexion of trunk. So what is happening? So today we have to conclude, isn't it? Then we can go to nutation. So tell me what is happening. Yesterday, if we are inside the class properly, today you will be able to answer. So tell me, what is happening to your lumbar lordosis? So three things we have to get clear in this. Okay, lumbar pelvic tilt with lumbar extension. See, this is a lumbar, posterior lumbar pelvic tilt. This is in the sitting position. Okay, this is in the sitting position, and that too in the closed kinematic chain. Okay, we can't tell that totally what is happening to your lumbar lordosis. Whether we can tell, because we are going for different positions in standing, then in sitting, then in lying. We are going for a different positions. So normally what will happen? So suddenly we can't tell that for always anterior pelvic tilt there will be increased lumbar lordosis. Whether we can tell like that, or we can come to a conclusion. How to conclude? Tell me. If you are concluding that, the answer we can conclude. Okay, what Vidya told us correct. Then coming to nutation, this is movement of the sacral promontory anteriorly and inferiorly. So nutation, I told you, it is flexion of sacrum. Counter nutation is the extension of the sacrum. Okay. So then we will go to kinematics. What are the stress and shear present in the sacrum bone? See, pelvic torsion is it occurs when the right and left ilium bones of the hip are out of alignment of each other. That is one thing may be higher or lower. That is called pelvic torsion. We call this as asymmetrical pronation. Example, during walking and ambulation, our pelvic bones will not be in the same position. It will go front and back. So we call that as a pelvic torsion. So that is asymmetrical, we told you. See, pelvic torsion. When we are going to keep our right leg in front, the left leg will go back side. So this is called a pelvic torsion. Then kinetics, if we go, then what are all the shock absorption, compression force, shear force, these things will be coming in the kinetics. Then the SI joints having a self-locking mechanism. That is, it will maintain, that is, it will try to lock. It will not go for very free positions or very free movements. So we can call that as a close packed position. So that it will help with stability during the push off phase of a walking cycle. Then the joints lock. That is, if one side, if we are putting the weight on one leg, then the another side, if we are that is hopping. When we go for hopping, or we are keeping one leg in front and one leg in back. So on those times, the joints go for a lock, and it is protecting the body, and it is helping to transmit the body weight through the hip bone via sacrum. Okay. So